So, a very common conversation in my coaching calls and talking to prospects is the idea of where can I find good people? And it usually manifests when we're talking about freelancers. You need more freelancers. You need a deeper bench. I'm saying this all the time. You need to spread the work around because so much of your work is execution based. Therefore, you don't necessarily need full-time people for that work because it is not full-time work. It's project by project by project. So if you can't find good people, what do you to be freelancers? What do you do? Well, you try and hire good people so that you don't have to hire freelancers, but that creates a whole nother problem in that you still need freelancers, right? But now you've got a full-time person you got to pay all the time. So the point I want to get across today about why we can't hire better people, why we can't fill our freelance bench with exceptional folks, why we always feel like we're compromising or being taken advantage of by our employees, by our contractors. There's a reason behind all of that. And I kind of want to unwrap that today and then talk about how you should look at your team and who do you want to bring on and what is the right solution for putting together the best organization that you can. So it's probably worth a listen. Maybe some great insights here. Certainly, I expect a little bit of feedback. Keep listening.
Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now on to the show.
One thing I learned early on in my management career was that the best hire you could make starts with firing somebody who's wrong, who doesn't fit, who doesn't meet criteria. Very often in leadership positions, we're faced with this dilemma is that I need to get a better person, but I can't afford to let this person go because there's nobody to do the work. Oh my goodness. I mean, that is just an Ouroboros kind of a problem, right? If I had some ham, I'm going to have ham and eggs if I had some eggs. No, if you want to build a better team, the first thing you got to do is get rid of anybody that you would never hire again, that you don't think is going to fit in the future, that if they walked into your office today, knowing what you know now, you wouldn't hire them again. And unfortunately for some of you, that's somebody who's been with you for 20 years. But hopefully maybe they've only been with you for 2 years and it's be easier to make that parting. But the fact is, the wrong people are sitting in seats and roles that are wrong for them, but more importantly, make you very unattractive for the right person to come work for you. So where do I find good people? That's a great question. My counter question is, why aren't they finding you? Recruiting, whether you're recruiting freelancers or employees, is marketing. If good people aren't lining up at your door, begging you to work, for work, that says more about you than it does about them, right? Good people are looking for great companies to work with. And if they don't think you're a great company, or you don't appear outwardly as a great company, or you employ people that other people don't respect, in other words, your peers aren't really good peerage, you're not attractive to better folks. This is especially true on freelancers. If freelancers see who you use and go, that person's really not that good, why do I want to work for you guys? And if I do work for you, I should be your first call, but I'm not going to be your first call because you're hiring this guy who's charging $400 a day. He's probably worth $250, but you're happy with that. I don't want to come to work for you. I'm not going to answer that call. I'm not going to make space in my calendar for you. Likewise, if you're trying to hire a full-time person, what are you hiring them into? What's the gap that they can fill? How can they bring value to your business? Or are you plugging a process error, right? Who wants to be the person that was hired because your process doesn't work and you're not fixing your process and you're not giving them the authority to fix your process? You're just throwing another skilled body at it. hoping that the process error will fix itself. Who wants that job? So there's a reason people aren't lining up at your doorstep because of what they see on the outside. Now, early in my career, I worked for a great company. We did a lot of things right, but the thing that we did best of all was hire and retain not only the best staff, but the best freelance crews. And I had a stack of resumes, and this is back in the day because they came in paper. Even if you emailed them, somebody emailed it to you, you still printed it out so you could read it. I always had a stack of resumes on the corner of my desk. And I would go through them on a regular basis and just say, hey, here's somebody we need to reach out to. And if I didn't know who somebody was, I'd ask anybody that came in my office. If one of the crews stopped by, or a freelancer or a contractor or a manufacturer rep stopped by, I said, hey, do you know any of these people? And I start throwing that out there, and they go, oh yeah, boy, you should hire that. Yeah, that's somebody you want to work with. They're really, really good. Well, coming from the right person, that's somebody I want to call up and say, hey, this well-respected person recommended that I reach out to you. You had sent me your resume. I apologize for not reaching out sooner. When can we chat? These are the kinds of things that you need to do. So we were great at that. Okay. What we struggled with, and just like any other company, was letting go of the people who weren't cutting it. And those people were occupying space and using up oxygen for that better people could have used. And once you start to understand that your job is to constantly curate your team, okay, and it's a team, it's not a family. If you fall into the whole trap of, oh, we're a family, I can't fire anybody, okay, you've lost the game. You've misunderstood the business, and you're doing a disservice to your best employees by retaining people who they probably wouldn't hire if they had the chance. So the best hire for you always starts with firing somebody who doesn't fit first. And that's a freelancer you choose not to use anymore. It's an employee that's not cutting it. They're not meeting criteria. They're making everything more difficult for other people. Just let them go. The team will fill in the gaps and get the work done, because your entire team's not bad. You probably have one or two bad individuals. So when candidates are looking at your business, they see where you have settled for mediocre or average. And we all settle for mediocre and average somewhere in our businesses. Hopefully it's not in the execution. Hopefully it's not in selling and planning. Maybe it's just, in the warehouse personnel or something like that, where you're using extra labor to make things work better. But people look at that and go, whoa, that's where you chose to be mediocre. That doesn't work for me, because that's the thing that would support me in the field. So they look at you. Candidates look at you. Freelancers talk. It's like, hey, do these guys support you in the field, right? Employees talk, saying, hey, I haven't had a raise in 5 years. I can't control my schedule. I can't get time off when I need it. These are the sort of things that people remember and say, hey, that's not really a company I want to be associated with. So if the candidate that you want to hire isn't replacing someone, the question is why? Why aren't they replacing someone? Did you suddenly just need an extra person? You need an extra body, not an attractive job? Or do you have a specific role that needs to be done better, much more interesting for people? Are you, every time you find a good person and you put them into an ideal role, are you taking the opportunity to shift other people around and refine their roles? Or do you get hung up on that, oh, I don't want to take that away from them, or they work so hard to get there, or, they're part of the family, I'll get them the help that they need. I will coach them more. Are you letting mediocre people placehold when there are good people who might want to work for you? When you hire somebody, what authority will this new hire have? Think about that. If you're not attractive to new hires, okay, is it because they're not going to have any authority and they're not going to have any power? They're not going to be able to contribute at their highest and best use? Okay, think about freelancers. If you're hiring a freelancer, do they have the authority to make decisions in the field that will benefit the the project? Can they call back to the shop and say, we need this down here, we need it now, we need 2 extra hands for this time period, and not be argued with about what it cost or we didn't sell it that way? If the person in the field says that there's a need here, they're the one who's got the customer breathing down their neck. If they aren't being supported in the field, all freelancers are going to know that. Nobody's going to want to work for you, right? So what authority are you going to give people? And if you don't feel like you can give people authority because you've been burned in the past, that says more about you than the people who have burned you, right? Are you hiring people who are good enough that you can trust them to do their job, that you will give them the opportunity to succeed? Or are you hiring people that need oversight, that if you don't supervise them and stay on top of them, they might take a shortcut that you don't approve of? My goodness, you should never be in that situation, okay? You're in a very mission critical business. Always have mission critical people. Now, it's easy to criticize what we lack and what certain people lack in skills and talents and aptitude. But let's talk about how you will know that you just hired the right person. So here's some indicators. Here's 4 things that I think if you hire the right person, that within 2 weeks, you're going to know the answer to all of these things is yes. Number 1, a great new hire is going to force you to change. They are not going to settle for the status quo. They're going to immediately look at things and say, we're going to make this better. And I'm not going to wait to get settled in. We're going to do this right now. Please hire that person. If somebody comes in and that's their attitude, I am thrilled to death. They should challenge the status quo, okay? Their job is not to come in and settle into the flow. Their job is to come in, and this is talent. Their job is to come in and say, hey, I see that you guys have been doing this a long way. Let me challenge this. Let me make some recommendations. Let me make some suggestions. Now, do they have to be pushy? No, they don't. They have to be able to read the room. But if they're making those suggestions and they're challenging the status quo, that is good for you. Third thing, they're cooperative, but they evaluate everything that's going on around them. They will play along, but they're taking a look at that so they can come back and say, I tried this. Let me tell you what the challenges are. Here's what I think would work better. So they're cooperative, they're kind, they're thoughtful, they're mindful, but they're intolerant and impatient about things that they don't think have legs, that this is not the best long-term solution. I want to make a change. And number 4, they threaten the old guard. If somebody who's been with your company for 20 years is threatened by the new person, you hired the right person. You've got 2 things are going to happen. The 20-year veteran is going to step up and remember what makes them valuable and kick it back into high gear instead of resting on their laurels, or they're going to get frustrated and move on, which honestly, very often is the best thing that could ever happen to you. Not that every long-time employee is a bottleneck or a problem or a challenge, but if an employee, a long-time employee, is threatened by a person who comes in and, wants to bring about change, challenge the status quo, they're kind, cooperative, but they are constantly evaluating and assessing the situation and making recommendations. If that is threatening, I want the new person and I want that old person to either figure out how to set aside their concerns and embrace the opportunity, or maybe it's time for them to move on and we can make room for more good people. Remember, the best hire is firing the wrong person first. Sometimes people will deselect themselves because they find that they can no longer contribute at the level that they think they're contributing at. You call their bluff, maybe it's time for them to move on. Or better yet, maybe they go, man, this is the energy that I need. I can focus on these things now because I'm not having to wear 27 hats. Thank goodness for bringing this person in there. I finally found an advocate for the things that I think are important. Awesome. 4 things that you need to look for. Now, when you are the owner, okay, growth will create distance between you and the workers. The bigger the company gets, the farther away you get from the workers. but you have to constantly assess, do you have the right team? And do you have an emotional gap that you need to fill to make that team work? And if that emotional gap is energy, it's compliance, it's aptitude, figure out what that is, embrace that emotion, and then make better hires. Bring people in who are going to stir it up a little bit in the interest of moving forward. And if you don't like things being stirred up, then get comfortable with the status quo, get comfortable with mediocre, get comfortable with rejection, because the best people aren't going to be seeking you out to work for work. And if you recruit them, they're going to take a look at you and go, this is not going to be a good fit for me. So where do I find good people? Why aren't they finding you? Be the company that good people want to work for. Thanks for listening. It's a challenge. I'm on your side. I know it's hard, but a mindset shift might get you a little bit further down the road. Give it a try.
If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimpson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimpson.com for more information.